pleasure to be here. I just moved to Stockholm a few months ago, actually, and this has turned out to be my favorite spot in Stockholm. So for those of you who are here for the first time, I hope you're enjoying this building. I absolutely love this building. Before we launch into TeliaSonera, I wanted to share a few things why I am so passionate about this industry. Because every day I wake up and I think, I was in IT before I joined TeliaSonera 6 months ago, and it's very similar. But you look at this and you think, what other industry has any numbers similar to the kind of numbers we have in this industry? And this, of course, drives what we do, and it drives change. By 2018, we'll have 11 times the growth in data traffic, for example. We'll go from 1 M2M connection per inhabitant to 2.6 in only 4 years. These are enormous growth numbers. We have a carrier network within TeliaSonera. We looked the other day on how much the traffic has grown since 1998. It's 20,000%. And I couldn't even grasp what 20,000% is. So a guy in our office, he calculated and he said it would be the same as if every person in this world owned 4 Volvos, since we're speaking with Volvos. So these are just fascinating numbers. And that makes it interesting every single day. This is basically the world of TeliaSonera, if you don't know us. We are mainly in Nordics, Baltics, Eurasia, and Spain. And we're actually the 6th largest operator in Europe, about a $15.5 billion turnover. In addition to this typical telco operations, we also have a carrier network. And we actually, it varies by the day, but we're actually number 1 or 2 in the world, providing the backbone to other carriers or to service providers. And we actually started investing in the IP backbone back in 1998. And as you can imagine, it was very controversial at the time. But when you saw that data traffic growth we have today, many of our customers in here are those companies who set the digital agenda of today, and they were not even existing in 1998. And that's the nature of this industry. You can't completely predict it. And that's what makes it so fascinating. So the customers, it's nice to be here as a customer, because most of the day I focus on who are my customers actually, and that's always very demanding. And you see some numbers here. We have about 189 million customers on our networks. We serve 150 multinational companies. TeliaSonera International Carrier has 1,450 customers in 101 countries. And I very often get the question, how do you deal with all those different customer demands in so many different countries? And this is my view of that. And I think this really drives innovation. I think that I've always worked globally, I've lived in many countries, and I love going to different countries, and there are always cultural differences. But actually, as a global company, my viewpoint is that it's actually the customer who unites us. Because when you look at everything from a customer perspective, and what you want to do is to delight the customers and surprise them in a positive way, of course. If you look at the different segments and you know your customers well, those expectations are actually quite similar. And the foundation for that, of course, is to have a segmentation model that actually works in your industry. And actually, the foundation for this comes from the Ericsson work that is done. And we look at the customers' attitudes and needs in terms of technology and how interested they are. And we go for specific segments, and what we know about these customers is they are constantly asking for a more connected lifestyle. And not only are they asking for more products and services from us, they are asking for real-time services. And that's the real interesting and challenging part for us going forward. And whereas we don't know, we can't tell you exactly which services we will have that 2 years from now, because that's part of the innovation. But we do know that as a telco, and I had the question here, what are you going to do as a telco? We do know if we want to deliver on those expectations, it puts TeliaSonera on a very exciting journey. And if you look at these axes, we come from the very traditional telco space, of course. And what we need to do, and what we have started to move on, is towards what we call the new generation telco, where we move towards applications and integrated services and not just the traditional telco space. But we still, of course, stay close to our network base. And that requires a whole new strategic agenda for us. And there are basically 2 parts, 2 legs of the TeliaSonera strategy. And the first one is to enhance the core. That's, of course, investments are. It's in the network. So how do we create more value through that superior network connectivity? And how do we drive more customer loyalty through convergence? That's a key word for us in everything we do in innovation. And the second part of this agenda, it's really to explore opportunities close to the core. We also call it adjacencies. And here you find all the different conversations about media, TV, M2M, e-health, for example. And we wanted to share, these are examples, we wanted to share one very, very concrete example and how we work with this and how this drives innovation forward. And that's really about Internet of Things and M2M. And if you look at the Internet of Things first, the wider picture, that's a market, you might have picked it up on my first slide, that's a market that grows worldwide about 15% year on year. That's tremendous growth for most industries. If you look at that market, Internet of Things in Nordics, which kind of is our home base, it grows 30% year on year. That's a fabulous growth target to have. And for us, if you talk about innovation and how we change things, that's a very significant environment to actually operate from. Because it means that our partners and customers, they drive us forward. Whether they are partners like Ericsson or they're partners as customers or partners in the ecosystem, it really drives us forward. And if we take it closer to home, because we're not addressing all of Internet of Things, to M2M, we're saying that it's going to go from about 1 connected unit per person to 2.6 connected units per person, so almost a 3-time increase. So these are really SIM connection outside of phones and iPads. So really, really strong growth and really addressable market for us. So what are we doing? So we already established here. And one key point, again, if you talk about innovation and how you drive change, is the customer base. Customers are so critical to take you forward. And we have some fabulous logos here, ranging from Tesla, which of course you all know. And what's interesting with Tesla is that it's not just the GPS, etc. They really developed that car to be like a smartphone. And our connectivity helps them with that. They can send an software upgrade in the morning, or they can ask the customers if they want it before they push it out. So this is really, really innovation. And we have a number of other partners in here, as you can see. And what our success factor is in this is clearly the customers and partners we have, firstly. Secondly, if you look at a telco operator with quite substantial organizations and network organizations, we've taken a dedicated team to this. And this, I think, is success factor. You take a dedicated team and you let that team operate as a smaller business from the beginning. So we have an M2M team globally, we have P&L follow-ups, we have products, we have services, etc. And we have been rated very highly by the analysts, and we were also one of the founders of the M2M Association, which is another key point, cooperating with other operators. So what are we doing with this? Well, we're taking it forward. We just had a Capital Markets Day about 5 weeks ago, I think it was. And for the first time we announced what kind of revenues we're talking about here. And this year, our plan is to close around 300 million Swedish kronor, this is SEK, in the M2M area. And we've been a bit bullish and said we're going to grow this about 4 times by 2018. So in a very fast-growing market, we want to grow much faster. So how do you do that? Well, you do it by continuing to focus, first of all. So we're going to let this team focus on what they're really good at. We're going to do it by continue to focus on horizontal offerings close to our core, but also to go vertical, to go into selected verticals and become really good at those verticals. One of them, automotive, of course. Health is another example. Consumer gadgets, which is endless. These opportunities are really endless. And then we want to expand our geographical footprint. So we want to leverage the global footprint we have and our customer relationships. And a really critical point when it comes to M2M, it's the ecosystems. We will see completely new ecosystems. And if you think about the automotive industry, about all the different partners you can imagine, if you think about the healthcare industry, what partners do you need to really be effective in there? And without talking about things we haven't launched yet, it is completely new ecosystems, and that's why companies play such a big role in this. And of course, it's about safeguarding attractive profitability in a segment like this. So M2M is one example. We're doing, we're, for example, quite big in our TV focus, etc. But this is one example of how we drive innovation, and which is a very big part of how we drive our transformation. And to sum up a bit and answer that question in the beginning, how we actually do it, one very, very critical thing for us is we have operations in such diverse countries across the footprint, and we have agreed on one commercial agenda, and that commercial agenda actually fits on one slide. But this is our commercial agenda for TeliaSonera. We're enhancing the core through focusing on data monetization, our enterprise business, driving commercial innovation, getting commercial innovation on the agenda, and focus on our customer excellence. And we do that in every single country. Every single country is different, so exactly what we do may differ, but it's all driving to this. And then, of course, we are exploring opportunities close to the core, and those are adjacencies such as M2M and others. But this commercial agenda, it is really there to fuel the whole transformation of TeliaSonera. And that's our key focus going forward and going towards that new generation telco.